think it is hurting people, and I think that's why people are going underground and not reporting.
In 2015, the Virginia General Assembly passed a law requiring all employees of public universities, minus a few confidential faculty, to report any knowledge of sexual assaults to local law enforcement. If authorities found out that university personnel, like resident advisors or professors, had known about an assault but had not reported it within 48 hours of knowing, the involved staff members could face the penalty of a Class 1 misdemeanor. The law came as a response to widespread concern that in cases of student-on-student sexual assault at the University of Virginia and other public universities, many Virginia schools were neither expelling perpetrators nor turning cases over to the police. The requirement became known as mandated reporting.
We need to amend it so that it works for everybody, because right now it's not working for everybody.
We sat down with Sherry Owen, the Community Outreach Director for the Sexual Assault Resource Agency, or SARA, to hear her thoughts on how the law may be having some unintended consequences for survivors.
Students just don't talk to their professors anymore. They don't write about their incident, if there was one, anymore, just because for fear of it being turned over to police to be reported.
Owen says that some students might not immediately know if they want to report, and while confidential resources do exist, students might feel more comfortable talking to a trusted resident advisor or a professor.
Your professor can be your most close confidant sometime. You know, you're 4 years with a professor that is an advisor or something. And now the mandated reporting law has squelched that.
Owen is not the only survivors advocate who feels that the new law has overstepped its bounds. Legal expert and UVA law professor Ann Coughlin fears that the bill takes control out of the hands of survivors who have already endured unimaginable trauma.
That's what worries me a great deal, is whether the mandatory reporting has gone too far, and instead of making it easier for people to report, making a culture of open reporting, that in fact it's had the opposite effect.
Coughlin says that many of her courses focus on the laws around rape and sexual assault, so being a mandated reporter impacts more than just one-on-one interactions with her students.
There have been times when I have thought I cannot even teach my classes because I can't have an open conversation with students in a safe room, a seminar room.
In the wake of the Rolling Stone article, A Rape on Campus, UVA was criticized for protecting male students from going to jail because the school did not automatically turn assault cases over to the police. Coughlin says that these criticisms are actually unfair because Virginia's rape statutes are antiquated.
That criticism was absolutely preposterous because the Virginia Criminal Code does not define as rape many of the encounters that our students were having. So in other words, Virginia requires proof of physical violence. We don't have a straightforward way to prosecute non-consensual sex in a case where there's not a lot of violence.
But despite the uphill battle that her students might face, Coughlin says that she always encourages them to report.
I always tell them that this is something that I strongly think they should do. But at the same time, I have always told them that it's their decision, it's their call, and that I'll support them in whatever path they decide to take.
So on one hand, the law causes university employees to unilaterally turn over reports of sexual assault and rape to the police, sometimes before a survivor may feel ready to do so. On the other hand, it can give students a push to enable law enforcement to collect key evidence that can make or break their case.
I'm thankful in a way that they were forced to report it to the police, because I don't know if I would have gone to the cops in time to get the evidence that they needed for the investigation.
We spoke with a rape survivor who asked us to keep her anonymous. She says that she's grateful for the bill because it enabled law enforcement to get evidence that may have disappeared by the time she had decided to report on her own.
Videotape footage of the coroner only lasts so long, depending on the establishment. I think some of them only keep it for 1 week. So if I had waited any longer, the police wouldn't have known to start investigating.
She says that the need to collect evidence quickly also applies to going to student health or the UVA hospital for a perk exam, otherwise known as a rape kit.
That I remember every single part of. And it was painful. You know, when they are taking samples, they're not being gentle with you because they're trying to get any remnant of DNA that they possibly can. And it's their job.
Despite the re-traumatizing experience, the survivor says that the nurses were understanding. Because they're still confidential employees under the mandated reporting law, the medical staff informed her that it was her decision if and when she'd like to have the kit returned to her, and any DNA found to be used as evidence in a criminal trial.
I can report it whenever I want, but the kit will only last 2 years. So I told the nurse, okay, well, I don't think I'm ready to report it yet. That seems like a lot to go through right now.
A few days later, she decided to report, knowing that other women could be attacked if she stayed silent.
I need to prevent this from happening to anybody else. This has been the worst experience of my life.
So she says, all in all, mandated reporting is a good thing. We decided to make the 2-hour drive to Alexandria to speak with one of the key supporters of the bill, State Senator Dick Zaslaw.
What motivated this was the appearance that UVA at the time had a policy of trying to sweep this under the rug. A major part of the bill was to make sure that when this did occur and not made up, that it was handled by the local police, because you're talking about a felony, and schools are not set up to handle felonies.
Do you think that the bill has gone too far in the other direction?
Well, I talked to the university about that. They don't think it has. And, you know, quite frankly, if a student goes and talks to a professor and he now has knowledge that a felony has occurred to a student on that campus, and he's an employee of that campus, I think he's pretty obligated to report that.
We asked Senator Zaslaw if he believed that mandated reporting should be adjusted to account for disclosures made in the context of the classroom. This bill has been around now since 2014, 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's time to amend the law?
Well, again, without getting a recommendation from the prosecutors and from the school, that's not likely to happen. If the school feels that, or the prosecutor, the prosecuting people, the police, the Commonwealth attorney, if they feel that the law needs to be changed, or modified in any way, there's an avenue for them doing that, and that's coming to the General Assembly.
So for now, the law stands. In Charlottesville for WUVA News, I'm Sammi Rappaport.